the early 2000s, a secret government experiment set out to answer a terrifying question. What happens to the human mind in perfect, absolute silence? Dr. Eberlin Hartmann, a brilliant but cold psychologist, believed that sensory deprivation could purify the mind. Asipudit, the mind is a machine that eats sound. When it starves, it begins to feed on itself. After being denied twice, her proposal was finally approved under a classified military contract. The project's official name was ECH-07. But to the few who knew of its existence, it was simply called the Silence Room. The facility was located somewhere isolated, northern, and cold. Its hallways were sterile, the lighting clinical, and the only sounds were the faint hum of electricity and the nervous breathing of its staff. The air itself felt too clean, too still. On May 9, 2003, the experiment's first long-term volunteer arrived. Subject 11, a 28-year-old man named Daniel Reed, was calm and introspective, hoping to escape a messy life. He seemed unfazed by the oppressive atmosphere, even joking as he tapped the soundproofed walls. "It's like being inside a coffin," he said with a curious smile. Dr. Hartmann's reply was chilling. "A coffin for the noise," she said. With a final wave to the cameras, Daniel stepped inside. A heavy door sealed shut with a deafening thud, and then there was only silence. For the first 6 hours, everything went as expected. Daniel meditated, hummed, and talked to himself to pass the time. But at hour 8, things started to change. He reported feeling strange vibrations, as if the silence itself were a physical force pressing against him. His humming became more desperate, an attempt to create company in the void. Then, at the 12-hour mark, he stopped. Nursimar Lasho, the soft-spoken assistant recording the sessions, noted in her log, "Subject has gone completely still. Eyes open, breathing irregular." The team was growing uneasy. The silence in the room was no longer empty. At 14 hours, the audio analysts made a truly disturbing discovery. Hidden beneath the frequency of Daniel's own voice was another sound, a low vibration at 19.2 Hz, just below the range of human hearing. It wasn't random noise. When they slowed down the recording, the waveform revealed a rhythmic pattern, almost like breathing. And then they heard it, a warped, distorted whisper. 2 words: "Not alone." The team tried to dismiss it as technical interference, a crossed signal from another channel, but their rationalizations shattered when Daniel began answering. On the grainy camera feed, they watched him whispering to an empty corner, his lips forming the question, "Who are you?" By the 20th hour, Daniel's psychological state had deteriorated rapidly. He began dismantling the microphone, claiming it was listening wrong. He would press his ear to the cold floor, whispering to something no one else could see or hear. He spoke into the intercom, his voice strained with panic. "There's someone in here. They breathe when I breathe." The project's neurologist, Dr. Luis Garane, was terrified. He pleaded with Hartmann to end the experiment, but she was fixated, convinced they were on the verge of a breakthrough. "We're hearing the self?" she insisted. "Don't interrupt it." In his private log, Crane wrote, "Hartmann believes it's consciousness manifesting. I believe it's hum." At exactly 24 hours, the chamber door automatically unlocked, but Daniel Reed didn't leave. He sat on the floor, facing the far wall, a faint, unnerving smile on his face. When Dr. Hartmann entered the room, the camera feed inexplicably cut out for 11 seconds. When the signal returned, the room was empty. Daniel was gone. Dr. Hartmann stood alone, motionless, her lips moving. The microphones, however, picked up only a rising tide of static. For the next 48 hours, security teams scoured the facility. They found no signs of a forced exit. The air ducts were too small for a person to fit through. The silence room itself was untouched, cold, and silent. And then, the anomalies began. The lights inside the chamber started flickering in a deliberate pattern. 3 short, 1 long, 3 short, 2 long. It was Morse code for hello. The digital clock on the wall, which should have been off, displayed negative time, its numbers counting backward into nothingness. Nursamarla, deeply disturbed, began reviewing every second of the recorded footage. She noticed something horrifying. The whispering on the audio tracks continued long after Daniel had vanished. In fact, it was still being recorded, even after the facility's main power had been cut. On tapes yet to record it 2 full days after the disappearance, a clear voice spoke her name, Marla. Shaking, she played it back. The voice whispered again, Marla, don't listen. Meanwhile, Dr. Crane, consumed by fear and guilt, started keeping his own secret audio diaries. He confessed the truth about Project ECH-07. The funding wasn't for academic research, it was from the military. The experiment's real purpose was to see if perfect silence could break prisoners faster than physical torture. The room, he explained, wasn't designed to isolate sound, it was designed to trap it. He theorized that the chamber acted as a kind of psychic echo chamber, collecting the residual energy of thoughts and emotions. Each subject left behind a fragment of their consciousness until the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was crowded. 2 months later, against all reason, Dr. Hartmann brought in Subject 12. She was a 32-year-old woman with no history of psychological issues. Within 4 hours, she was pounding on the door, begging to be let out. She screamed that a man's voice was whispering to her, repeating the same phrase over and over. It's my turn. When the team finally sedated and removed her, they found small, bruised handprints on her skin. The prints were a perfect match for Daniel Reed's. By September, the project had completely collapsed. Every staff member had resigned, except for Dr. Hartmann. She continued to work alone in the sealed-off wing, obsessed. Security logs from that period show motion sensors inside the silence room being triggered night after night. No one ever entered or exited. The movement always came from within. On October 4th, 2003, Dr. Hartmann recorded her final audio log. Her voice was weak, filled with a strange mix of terror and awe. Silence isn't absence, she said. It's accumulation. Every sound that dies here becomes something else. Her breathing grew heavy. Daniel isn't gone. None of them are. I can hear them now. Then, her voice dropped to a barely audible whisper. It wants my voice. That was her last transmission. Her body was found the next morning. The official cause of death was a massive hemorrhage from ruptured ear, but the coroner's report noted something else. Her mouth was open because she had bitten clean through her own tongue. Facility B was officially shut down and sealed under tons of concrete, but the story doesn't end there. Construction workers involved in the demolition later reported hearing voices coming from inside the solid cement walls. They described the sound as a faint, rhythmic breathing, perfectly synchronized with whoever was listening. Years later, in 2008, a corroded VHS tape marked Test 11 Archive was found buried near the decommissioned site. The tape is 9 minutes long. For most of its runtime, it shows only static and the empty, sterile room. But then, a figure materializes in the far corner. It's pale, its face obscured by shadow. Just before the tape cuts out, the microphone records a single, chilling phrase, "Not alone." Experts have dismissed the entire incident as a combination of mass hysteria and elaborate hoax, but there's one piece of digital evidence that remains impossible to fake. In the metadata of Dr. Hartmann's final audio recording, waveform analysis revealed the presence of 3 distinct, overlapping heartbeats. 2 were human. The third remains unidentified. Today, the coordinates of Facility B are still restricted, a dead zone on all public maps. But locals who venture too close report a low hum coming from beneath the ground at night. Sound like the earth itself is breathing, and they say that when you stop and listen closely, the hum stops too, as if it knows you're there. The experiment was terminated, but its status remains ongoing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more horror stories from Horror Signal TV.